like this whole book, they have these grand aspirations, and Haymitch is like convinced. He's like, yeah, I'm just gonna like go down to the sub A level. I'm gonna blow up this water tank. I'm gonna blow up the arena, and then we're gonna take over the capital. Yeah, easy, no problem, with a potato. And you're like, in your head, you're like, no, dude, this is happening in 25 years. You've got to be like oppressed for 25 more years. Again, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what I was thinking about the whole time of like yeah, like this, just watching this character like unravel and a little bit of like his ego and why he becomes the person he becomes in the original trilogy.
You know, it's interesting, Becca, because I feel like that it does open up a lot of things when you say that, because I feel like what is really interesting that I'm realizing as you say that is that Haymitch has lived with a promise to his dying lover for years, and the promise is he talks about it at the end of the book. It's promise is not something that he necessarily wants to do. He's not looking for this mission.
Yeah.
He
He gets
believes
roped
in it.
into it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, he believes in the cause. I think he hates the capital, but he's not looking to
Yeah.
devote his life to bringing the capital down. And it's only because he promises this to her that I think that we don't end up with him just like, taking his own life or just, dying within the bottle. He feels an obligation. And what is realistic about this, even though it is a retcon, is the idea that he lives with that alone, that he doesn't share that with anyone. He doesn't share that
Yeah.
with the kids that he's mentoring. And part of that, I wonder if it's fear, because I'm thinking right now of scenes I remember where he's discussing with Katniss and Peeta separately, like how we're going to protect the other one, what kind of choices you have to
Yeah.
make, if you feel this way or if you feel that way. Now, through the perspective of, or the spectrum of like, well, he made choices and they resulted in everyone he loved dying. And what kind of guilt, what is he thinking about when he offers advice to someone who is in even a situation that smells a little bit similar? Um, it's really interesting stuff to go back and sort of decipher and sort of, break down the character like that.
Lots of little nuggets and little trails that she's leaving for us.
But yeah, they think trauma and pain are definitely clearly big in the thematic department.
Clear theme. Yeah, unfortunately.
Jessica, what are your thoughts thematically? What
Well,
stands out to you?
off of trauma and pain, I mean, grief is clearly the main, like one of the main themes, because I mean, the we've got Edgar Allan Poe going through this whole thing, which all the poems are about a man overcome with grief, paralyzed by it. Um, and which I don't know. I still am deciding if I like the poem through the I do like song through
Hmm.
the songs from the book and everything and the original stuff, and I'm still deciding about the Edgar Allan Poe stuff, but I do think it's obviously very relevant to what's going on in the book. But like I think not only personal grief that Haymitch is going through, but grief is like it doesn't have a linear, you don't experience it in a linear fashion.
Yeah.
It comes and goes, it leaves you, and it paralyzes you at times. And I think that Snow uses grief as a weapon, and he does it through the whole Hunger Games by the pain and the trauma that he inflicts on people. And he knows that the worst one is the grief that you're going to feel. You know, how I think there's like that, how that can really damage a person because when he really wants to hurt someone, that is how he goes at them. And I have to believe it's because of it's the only thing that ever hurt him. But I'm not convinced he ever loved anyone, but I'm going to let him have the other book, whatever. But yeah, so grief is the big one for me, and it ties all into the pain and trauma, but I do think it also ties into some of the political things that she's trying to say too, because it's weaponized quite often. Not just for one person, but for an entire district or all the districts. And that's how he's using it to control a lot of them. So
I want to add one interesting thing because I understand the point you make about the songs and the like original poetry versus Poe. But
Yeah.
what I thought was interesting about Poe is that he enlisted in the army and then rage quit after his training because he was so bad at it. And I think Suzanne Collins is smart enough that that layer is also important to like the Haymitch's evolution that we see. And its effectiveness,
Sure.
That's a
like
good
your
point.
mileage may vary, but I just think that's like a fun fact.
No, that is great. That is great. Yeah, grief, I mean, I think is such a important thing, especially and maybe we can talk about this when we come back from the break, but the idea once again of generational stories and generational trauma. I mean, when we look at District 12, especially looking at it in these three time periods where you songbirds and snakes, then the quarter quell, then Katniss's trilogy, the entire district is crushed, and we see, we see the specifics of how, some people have it a little bit worse than others, but no one has it well. No one is living well in this society. Everyone is crushed under some sort of trauma, and we see that revealed in this book with the humanization of Maisley, and Haymitch's realization, I guess, that of who the real enemy is.